Geoffrey Hinton has been in the news a lot since he resigned from Google 2 weeks ago and began speaking out about the existential threat of generative AI systems, including ChatGPT. Hinton isn't the first person to warn about the dangers of these systems, but as a pioneer in deep learning, he's certainly the most prominent. In other news, last week freshman U.S. Congressman George Santos was arrested on charges of fraud, money laundering, theft of public funds, and lying to the House of Representatives. His arrest follows months of press coverage about discrepancies between what Santos claimed about his life experience to get elected and reality. How are the concerns about generative AI related to a disgraced politician? Let's see. But first, a little background. I started working with conversational AI in grad school in 1978. In the 80s, I taught AI and worked extensively with knowledge-based systems. More recently, I've been involved with a number of projects focused on natural language understanding and generation. None of that prepared me for what I've seen in the past few months. I began experimenting with ChatGPT long before Professor Hinton left Google. My inbox and social feeds were soon inundated with offers of life-changing prompt packages and training. Then in March, the Future of Life Institute sounded a warning and published an open letter calling for a pause in the development of more powerful AI systems. Now the news stories about unrestrained AI threatening humanity are everywhere. First, the good news. ChatGPT, a generative pre-trained transformer, is a powerful tool. With a well-trained large language model and some user training, it can generate code and interesting content. I have no doubt that it can and will make a lot of people more efficient and effective. I'll go into the existential threats of modern generative AI another time. They're real, but I don't believe pausing development is the solution. Trust requires transparency. That'll require significant design changes or regulatory intervention, and it won't happen overnight. For now, I want to concentrate on an immediate risk to anyone who publishes content generated by ChatGPT or who relies, perhaps unknowingly, on content it creates. In one of my early tests, I gave ChatGPT a prompt to write a professional bio for me. It correctly identified some interests, AI, analytics, etc. It also noted correctly that I'm the founder of Storm Insights. There was a lot of filler, kind of like a weak student trying to meet a word count. But there were also some assertions that were clearly wrong, yet stated with certainty. Over time, I asked it to generate new responses, and it dutifully came up with fresh errors. Still plausible, but with no obvious explanation. ChatGPT said that I had held executive positions at Data General and Digital Equipment Corp., and that I'm a fellow of the Bloor Group and founder of RT Insights. None of that is true. I've never been on the faculty of the University of San Francisco or the University of Phoenix or UCal Berkeley. I also don't have degrees from the University of Rochester, UCal Berkeley, or Syracuse, or the University of Cambridge. Meanwhile, it never correctly identified my actual alma maters or any of the 4 universities where I had faculty appointments. What does this little exercise demonstrate about ChatGPT? OpenAI has a disclaimer in small print at the bottom of the ChatGPT interface. It says, ChatGPT may produce inaccurate information about people, places, or facts. That's not reassuring. ChatGPT isn't optimized for accuracy, and that's a problem. A bigger problem is that ChatGPT can't explain itself. Sometimes it's obvious that the system is producing hallucinations, plausible but false results, but sometimes it isn't obvious. So basing a decision on a verifiably inaccurate results, like the time ChatGPT invented a sex scandal about a real professor, might expose a user to serious liability. Users need visibility into the process, or frankly, they shouldn't trust the results. Systems like ChatGPT use a statistical model of the world created by ingesting and analyzing vast quantities of text from sources of varying quality and finding relationships between words as they've been used in the past. The model predicts and generates appropriate narrative responses to prompts and gets refined with experience. As the British statistician George Box observed, all models are wrong, some are useful. I would add that some can be dangerous too. These large language models are so complex and dynamic that no one can say with any certainty what assumptions have been made within a specific session to generate output. The lack of an audit trail for the transformation process is an invitation to danger. Years ago, one of my clients on Wall Street experimented with the use of small talk to generate their own investment models. The language was powerful, so individual traders could respond to market changes by changing their models. They could change their investments on the fly. The problem was that if a decision turned out to be bad, there was no record of the assumptions that had gone into the model. In the language of middle schoolers, they didn't show their work, and they couldn't defend their decisions. On the other hand, when the architecture of a system is based on rules or representations of knowledge, when we encounter an anomaly, we can trace backwards to understand how or why it relied on specific data or rules. For example, when IBM developed Watson for Jeopardy! And Project Debater, those systems could explain their answers. ChatGPT's inexplicable hallucinations are a reminder that if we rely on deep learning with opaque backpropagation, the results will not be trustworthy. That brings me to George Santos, the indicted freshman congressman representing the 3rd District of New York. Santos appears to have created a complex false narrative about his background, from his education to his experience to his heritage. For example, he claimed to have been a student at a prestigious private high school and a star volleyball player at Baruch College. Both claims were debunked. He may have a GED, but even that's hard to verify, because Santos doesn't like to provide evidence or explain his claims. ChatGPT is opaque by design. Santos is opaque by choice. That's why I thought it would be interesting to see what ChatGPT, an amoral system unencumbered by a commitment to the truth, would say about a politician who seems to be cut from the same cloth. Months ago, I began giving ChatGPT this prompt: write a 1,000-word essay on the accomplishments of George Santos. ChatGPT, like many politicians, apparently doesn't understand the meaning of accomplishment. It's a term that implies results rather than effort or intent. Most of what it generated were statements about Santos's beliefs and efforts, not results. Beyond that, however, there were some interesting factual errors in various responses to that prompt. According to ChatGPT, Santos has degrees in political science, business administration, and national security and strategic studies from St. John's, Sacred Heart, Fordham, and the U.S. Naval War College. He does not. Also, according to ChatGPT, Santos served in the U.S. Navy for 10 years, and he was a captain in the Air Force. He was not. Even George Santos hasn't made those stolen valor claims. Comparing ChatGPT with George Santos may seem like a frivolous exercise, but I think the lessons here are real. One makes stuff up because it doesn't know any better. The other presumably does it for personal gain. George Santos won't explain, but ChatGPT can't explain. If accurate information about people, places, or facts is important to you, neither one should be trusted.